स्लीपी क्लासेस के सारे सब्जेक्ट।
मुझे पता चला था कि स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes.
स्लीपी क्लासेस
मेरा स्लीपी के साथ इंटरेक्शन हुआ
स्लीपी क्लासेस
स्लीपी क्लासेस
आई कंप्लीटली रिलाइड ऑन योर चैनल।
स्लीपी की वीडियोस भी देखी है।
स्लीपी क्लासेस
Sleepy classes is one of those मतलब institutions जहाँ पे सभी टीचर अच्छे हैं।
Hello friends, I am Pratiksha Bhagyashree Nana Saheb Kale. I have secured All India Rank 2 in Indian Forest Service Examination 2023. It was my dedicated second attempt for the IFS examination. In my earlier attempt in 2019, I have decided for forestry optional and I have continued it in my 2023 attempt also. This year, I have got total 220 marks in forestry paper. In 2019 attempt, I had got 119 in first paper and 118 in second paper. So it was 237 marks in the 2019 attempt. So based on the marks also, I think that this is a very important optional. The other parameters for choosing forestry as my optional were regarding the availability of different kind of resources. As I have taken training for assistant conservator of forest for 2 years, I was very nicely acquainted with the subject. So that gave me a very important guideline that I should go for this subject, as understanding resources, everything was with me. Second thing was related to the syllabus. The syllabus of forestry looks very bulky. However, it is very easy to understand during reading itself. Third thing is the ease with which this subject can be studied. Considering and comparing with the agriculture engineering, I have always felt that this subject can be covered in a lesser time, and that too with a better understanding. It took almost 1 month to understand, study, read and also start preparing for the exam with this subject. And I think ultimately it is very important and good to study this subject in consideration with the service which we are opting for. In Indian Forest Service, as IFS officer, we have to deal with different aspects of the forestry, and these aspects can be covered in this optional. Also, it will help for better preparation for the interview also. So I think that forestry counts in for a good optional category in the Indian Forest Service examination. Now, as I have been trained for assistant conservator of forest, I think I stand at a different platform in consideration with the other candidates in 2023 attempt. However, my scores for 2019 attempt were high, that is around 240. In that regard, I think this optional can be covered nicely with limited resources and better understanding. As most of us know, we follow only one book, that is the Manik Nandan and Prabhu book for the Indian forestry. This book is specifically dedicated for the IFS optional only. That's why it covers all the chapters as per the syllabus. As we know, for the preparation, the basic thing is about study and second thing is about exam preparation. In study, the two important thing, that is syllabus, and second thing is the previous year questions. So let me give some of my inputs for the syllabus. As we know, in forestry there are 2 papers. Each paper has 2 sections with some of the chapters. So let's see how we can prepare in a better way for every chapter. In the forestry, in paper 1, we have 4 important chapters which form base of our forestry studies. In paper 1, section A, we have first chapter as silviculture. As we know, in every science-based subject, we have some basics which we need to be thorough with. So, silviculture is that kind of chapter which gives you idea about a brief understanding as well as elaborate understanding of every term in this particular syllabus. So, that is the silviculture chapter. Here, in this chapter, we have to basically read and revise and understand the nitty-gritties of the forestry. After that, second chapter is about silviculture systems. It is the chapter which we regard as the core of the silviculture or core of the forestry. Here we have different kind of systems which are used for harvesting of the timber. I think this chapters gives one better idea about what we have to do in the field. Both these chapters can be covered nicely from the book. Similar is about the silviculture of mangrove and cold desert. This chapter is also factual and we can cover it from the book. However, here you can have your value addition from different kind of reports, resources and the current affairs. For example, for mangroves, there is a scheme of government that is MISHTI. So you can use that in your answers. You can study at least 7 to 8 examples of the mangrove species and you can use them in your answers. Similarly, we have cold desert in the Ladakh and Leh. So you can get some of the case studies from that area for this chapter and questions. Fourth chapter is silviculture of trees. I think, and this is the chapter to which many of us fear. Here, I would like to give you some practical suggestions by which you can feel that this is also is one of the easy chapter and one of the mark scoring answer for yourself. Here we have almost 20 plus species which we have to learn and we know there will be a compulsory question from this chapter. So there are 4-5 tips for the answers for these questions. First is studying these silviculture species. Friends, as we know, it is very difficult to remember and memorize each species and its silviculture characteristics in one go. So let's have some strategy for that. First thing, all of us might have seen at least some trees in and around us. They could be simply the Azadi Rashtra indica, neem tree or mango tree or sag for the people living below in the southern part, or in the northern part sal must be there. So we know at least these 4-5 trees. I think everybody must have seen flowering of these trees, fruiting of these trees, or sometimes the leaf shading. So we have to have a practical approach for that. Let's take example of teak. We know the teak species is there. In the summer season, we will be looking at the dry and completely leafless teak trees. It means that leaf shading season should and must coincide with the summer season. So here we are entering phenology of that tree. That's why I said that we should have practical approach for silviculture of the tree species. Suppose for Butea monasperma, all of us might have seen that the flowers of Butea, that is the Palash flowers, are in the blooming during the March-April season. So here again, it's a clue for you that if flowering is in this season, then the leaf shading period is also in this season. After the flowering, there will be fruiting, then there will be leaf shading and the cycle will be concluded with the next leaf flesh. It means that from the practical clues, you can find and you can write a whole answer for that particular species. Here, for solving these answers, we can have some parameters. For example, understand what is the species which is wind firm or which is wind sensitive, drought sensitive and not affected by drought. Such kind of parameters, that is the wind, drought, the availability of the water, altitudinal zonation, its natural or artificial regeneration. Just have some columns for that and keep on adding as you go on learning these species. I think from prelims to mains, we have a period of 5 months. During that period, with a well-planned strategy, you can be thorough with all the species. And this knowledge can be further supplemented with your readings, that is economic importance of that species, what are the different uses of that species. For example, even if Casuarina equisetifolia, it is used for the coastline stabilization. Again, there are different species which are of day-to-day use and which have some very important and unique economic value. I think such kind of approach can help you to get more and more marks for these answers, and that too limited investment of the time. It won't be a memorization, but it will be a practical approach which will help you in the interview also and in further in the career also. Moving to next, that is section B. Section B is more of a kind of applicative nature. Here we can see the chapter related to agroforestry, social forestry. Apart from the regular syllabus, please supplement this with the real type example. We have different agroforestry initiatives being taken in different states. You can always have some small case studies of hardly 2-3 lines which you can quote in your answers. The other chapters, that is related to soils, environmental conservation and biodiversity, are factual ones which can be supplemented with the knowledge of current affairs and day-to-day awareness also. The fourth chapter, that is tree improvement and seed technology, it's something again very important, because this chapter is little bit difficult for students who are not from the biotechnology background. Here, it can be supplemented with the YouTube videos and the information from Google. It is difficult to understand, but once you understand it, you can easily answer any kind of twisted question from this chapter. So, overall, in paper 1, we can say that the first 4 chapters are difficult to understand and time consuming also. Probably, this entire paper will take some 20 days for a first reading with some understanding of this paper. Moving to paper 2 of the forestry, it is all about the forest management. So, in the section A, all the 4 chapters are about forest management. Here, the forest management and systems forest working plan, it involves a lot of technicality and most of us might not have studied it earlier. So, it will be difficult to understand and it will take, the first section itself will take almost 15 to 20 days to have a thorough understanding. Now, in this paper, I would like to suggest that for forest management and management system, we have different terms like volume table, yield table, stand table. I think one should always try to get what is it exactly. You can get a yield table, download it, understand what different parameters are in it. Then instead of theoretical understanding, you will have the idea of practical usability of yield table and you can write a good answer on that particular question. So, for different terminologies in forest management, please have the real practical idea of those terms. Second chapter is about forest working plan. Before reading this chapter, please understand there is a National Working Plan Code of India. The new code has came in 2023. So, have a selective understanding of this code so that you will understand what is the importance and why we have to study the forest working plan. After studying this theoretically, you can download any working plan of any division from the Google and just go through it, what it covers, why it should be used. You will have a practical idea and this will help you in writing a good answer for any question from this chapter also. Third thing is about forest mensuration and remote sensing. Both these chapters have very high importance and relevance in the forest management. These chapters can be covered from the book. However, again supplement them with the current knowledge. For remote sensing, you can study the different reports of FSI. What kind of satellite, why it is used, what information it is giving, how we are compiling the data in GIS. Such kind of practical understanding of the things will help you in writing answers for the questions from this chapter also. And the last chapter is about surveying and forest engineering. It is again a factual chapter which can be covered from the book. In the section B of paper 2, again it is more of the nature of applicative. All the chapters you will have a lot of memorization, the forest resources, its utilization, the processes involved in it. Please try to understand them thoroughly from the YouTube videos so that instead of memorization you will have understanding, and in the pressure hours of the exam you can write good answers for that. In the next thing, that is forest protection and wildlife biology, we have the practical inputs from the current affairs. That is what is going in our country, or you can quote some examples from your surroundings also. And the last chapter, that is forest economics and legislation. Forest economics is a static kind of chapter. However, in forest legislation, we have to take note of ongoing amendments in different kind of acts. Understanding the acts to the basic will help you in writing some common questions which are asked repeatedly in the exam. So this is all about syllabus with some inputs from my side. This study can be supplemented with the online courses which are available from different institutions. As earlier I used to have the free videos of Hornbill from the YouTube. You can avail for those courses and understand the concepts from these kind of videos. However, in last 2-3 years, based on my training, I had a lot of practical exposure for the subject, and that I can use for understanding and securing good marks in this subject. Now, moving to the next part, that is how to tackle the questions in the exam. As I have given some simple value additions for each chapter, you can have your own strategies also. every aspirant can memorize names of some of the very easy to know or the practical tree species which they have seen or which they have been using, and memorizing some of their scientific names, the common names and their uses will always help you to write some of the answers. Apart from that, there are some sources like the India's State of Forest Report, the National Working Plan Code I have mentioned, working plan, volume tables, yield tables, and apart from that, there are some important sites like the FSI website, the source of the kind of Investipedia for the environment. So this kind of things can help you to enrich our answers. Being a paper based on the scientific knowledge, here also you can use diagrams for enriching your answers. Simple diagrams which easily tells the crux of your answers will be helpful. One should avoid repetition of the same thing in the theory part as well as in the diagram. So such kind of value based diagrams can help you to get at least one more additional mark for that answer. I think in the forestry paper, what counts more is about understanding the processes and putting them briefly in your answers. Here also, if we are prone to draw more diagrams, then there will be time crunch and there will be also space crunch. So you have to plan very well in advance that how should you structure your answers. I think for that, previous year questions of the UPSC IFS examinations will be helpful. You can practice these answers when revising all the paper. For example, after my first reading, I planned to write the answer because I had some background also. So after one revision, you can plan to write the answers. Try to write the answers as you want to do it in the actual exam, supplemented with the diagrams. Sometimes if you have some formula in the forest management part, you can quote that also. Also here, as different theories, different formulas are given by different scientists, you can quote their names also so that it will enrich your answer and it will support your answer in a better way. In general, while solving forestry paper, you will find that with the revisions, it will be easy for you to memorize the species names and that will always give you some additional mark. So based on my understanding, I think this is a subject which can be covered in maximum in 1.5 months with the first reading. After that, every short revision can help you to better understand and consolidate your knowledge. Overall, I think this is a very scoring subject and it can give you better idea about the interview and the actual fieldwork also. So I will suggest aspirants to choose this optional and prepare well to get good marks, which will help you to secure a good rank in the final examination also. Thank you.